Welcome to the Crafco electric hose troubleshooting video. This video follows along with the troubleshooting steps outlined in your equipment's operating manual. If you do not have a copy of your equipment's operating manual, you can download one from the Crafco website by visiting www.crafco.com under the Documentation tab. Troubleshooting Crafco's electrically heated hose is a simple process of elimination. We have a series of steps to help you identify the source of your issue. Once you determine the source of the problem, then you can take the appropriate steps to resolve it. We will walk you through each of these steps in this video. A multimeter will be required to conduct the testing shown throughout this video. A multimeter is an electronic measuring instrument that combines several measurement functions all in one unit. Throughout this video, we will use a multimeter to test volts, amps, continuity, and resistance. If you need assistance using a multimeter, see the How to Use a Multimeter chapter in the operating manual. Also, many free video tutorials are available on YouTube and other places online for visual demonstrations if you need more assistance. If your electric hose won't heat, the first step is to make a few visual checks inside of the control box. First, you're going to look at the digital display for the material temperature and verify that it is over 275 degrees. If it is, you'll move on to the next step. If no, your material is just not hot enough yet and the hose won't engage. You simply need to allow the machine to keep running to allow your material to heat up more than 275 degrees. Then the hose will turn on and begin to heat. Make sure that your material and hot oil temperature dials are set to the appropriate operating temperatures. Typically, this is 500 degrees for the hot oil and about 380 degrees for the material. The next step is to verify that the heated hose light is on. If yes, the light is on, go on to the next step. If no, you simply, again, need to allow the machine to continue heating your material to a minimum of 275 degrees before the hose will engage. Lastly, verify that the circuit breaker isn't tripped. If yes, simply reset the circuit breaker by pushing in on the button which is popped out. If none of these are the issue, we'll move on to the next section, which is electrical troubleshooting. Step 1 of electrical troubleshooting. We're going to check and see if there's 12 volts between the bat terminal of the generator and a nearby ground source. We often use the battery for this. If yes, you have 12 volts, you'll continue on to the next step. If no, you're going to go to step 6 of electrical troubleshooting. Step 2 of electrical troubleshooting is to check for 24 volts at the generator. You will need to check 3 sets of leads, checking between black and white, then checking between black and green, and then checking between green and white. There should be 24 volts between each. This test can also be conducted on the wires inside of the junction box, and again, testing those same combinations of wires. If yes, you get 24 volts between all 3 sets of wires, go on to step 2A. If no, you're not getting 24 volts, stop the engine, tighten the belt, then restart the engine and recheck your output voltage. If still no, you're not getting 24 volts, the fix is to replace the generator. Step 2A of electrical troubleshooting is to check the 3 heating element wires, the blue wires, inside of the junction box. Always use a clamp-on meter to perform this test. Each wire should have the same amp reading, plus or minus 1 amp. If the machine is cold, proper amperage should be between 30 and 35 amps. If the machine is hot, proper amperage should be 20 to 22 amps. If yes, you have proper amperage, the hose should be working properly. If no, go on to step 3 of electrical troubleshooting. Step 3 of electrical troubleshooting, we're going to check for continuity in the hose from end to end. To do this, you need to disconnect the 3 blue heating element wires from the terminal block inside of the junction box and disconnect the 5-pin plug between the hose and the wand. We're going to check each letter D, E, and A on the 5-pin plug against the 3 blue wires on the other end of the hose. So example, you will plug in at D and then test all 3 blue wires at the other end. There should only be continuity on one of the 3 wires. Then you'll plug in at E on the 5-pin plug and test all 3 wires again, ensuring that there is only continuity on one of the 3 blue wires. And then finally again, you'll plug into A and test all 3 wires again, ensuring there's only continuity on one of the 3 blue wires. If yes, your continuity is good on all, go on to step 3A. If no, either there was no continuity from any of the letters to any of the wires, or if there was continuity on more than one wire to a letter, this hose needs to be repaired or replaced. Contact Crafco to send back the hose for repair.
So right here we're going to do the continuity check for the hose from end to end. We're going to verify that there is only one blue wire that has continuity for each of the 3 locations on the connector. So we're going to check D, E, and A. So right now we're in D. And
there's no continuity.
So there's continuity on that one. So we're going to make sure that there's only one. So don't just stop when you find continuity. Check each one. So now we're going to move to E, and there's one there. And now we're going to do A. So it shouldn't be on this one, shouldn't be on this one, but should be here. So that continuity check is good.
Step 3A to electrical troubleshooting. Now we're going to check the RTD sensor by disconnecting the black and white wires from the terminal block in the junction box and test for ohms. You're testing the black and the white wire at the same time. One lead is on the white wire and the other lead is on the black wire. Compare the ohms and the temperature in the ohms chart. This is shown here in this image. This chart can also be found in your operating manual. It is best to do this test when the machine is cold. That way you can compare to the ambient temperature. But if the hose is hot, look in the control box and find the hose temperature display and compare the temperatures there against the chart. If yes, your readouts match, you'll go on to step 4. If no, your readouts don't match, this hose needs to be repaired or replaced. Contact Crafco to send back the hose for repair. Step 4 of electrical troubleshooting. Now we're going to check for continuity in the wand, and we're going to do that by checking between posts D, E, and A. So you're doing 3 separate checks here. You're going to check between posts D and D, then between posts D and A, and then between posts A and E. If yes, your continuity is good between all 3, go on to step number 5. If no, your continuity is not good between any of those 3 checks, then this wand needs to be repaired or replaced. Contact Crafco to send back the wand for repair. Step 5 of electrical troubleshooting. We're checking to see if there's 12 volts between the wire labeled blue gen. This is the blue generator wire on the upper terminal block. And we're going to check that between a nearby ground source. We typically use that black post, as you can see in the video, as the ground wire. If yes, you have 12 volts, you're going to check for a loose or broken connection between the terminal block bat terminal of the generator. If no, you're going to go on to step 6. Step 6, 6A, and 6B of electrical troubleshooting are going to be checking for 12 volts between the hose packstat terminals. You can see there's 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to be checking the terminals against the black wire that's terminal number 8. So for this first check, we're going to check against the blue wire terminal number 4 of the hose packstat against the black ground wire terminal number 8. If yes, there's 12 volts, check for loose or broken wires between terminal number 4 and the terminal block. If no, go on to step 6A. Step 6A of electrical troubleshooting, we're again testing to see if there's 12 volts between the hose packstat. This time we're testing terminal number 3, the pink wire, against terminal number 8. If yes, there's 12 volts, the fix is to replace the hose packstat. If no, you're going to continue on to step 6B. Step 6B of electrical troubleshooting, we're testing to see if there's 12 volts between the hose packstat, pink wire terminal number 1, and then between the black wire on terminal 8. If yes, there's 12 volts, check for loose or broken wires between terminal number 1 and terminal number 3. If no, go on to step 7. Step 7 of electrical troubleshooting. Now we're testing for 12 volts between the pink wire labeled pink 1 on the upper terminal block and a nearby ground source. If yes, check for loose or broken wires between the terminal block and terminal number 1. If no, continue on to step 7A. All steps to this point have been the same for both Crafco SuperShot melters and Crafco EZ Series 2 melters. The last steps will now be different based on if the electric hose you're troubleshooting is on a SuperShot or an EZ Series 2 unit. The last step for troubleshooting an electric hose on a SuperShot is step 7A in the manual. Check for 12 volts between the pink wire labeled pink 3 and the nearby ground source. If yes, you have 12 volts, call Crafco and speak to a technical representative, as you should have been able to have found the problem. If no, replace the terminal block. This is the end for SuperShot melter electric hose troubleshooting. Let's now continue on to the remaining steps for troubleshooting an electric hose if it's on an EZ Series 2 unit. This last section of electrical troubleshooting covers steps 7A, 8, 8A, 9, and 9A, which are all only applicable to EZ Series units. So, step 7A. Is there 12 volts between the pink wire labeled pink 4 and a nearby ground source? If yes, you will replace the terminal block. If no, continue on to step 8. Step 8 is to check if there's 12 volts between the hose selector pink wire labeled pink 4, bottom left terminal, and a near ground source. If yes, check for loose or broken wires between the switch and upper terminal block. If no, go on to step 8A. 8A is checking for 12 volts between the hose selector switch, which is the pink wire labeled pink 3, center left terminal, and a nearby ground source. If yes, replace the hose selector switch. If no, go on to step 9. On step 9, we're checking to see if there's 12 volts between the pink wire labeled pink 3 on the upper terminal block and the nearby ground source. If yes, check for loose or broken wire between the terminal block and the hose selector switch. If no, go on to step 9A, which is to lastly check to see if there's 12 volts between the pink wire labeled pink 2 on the upper terminal block and a nearby ground source. If yes, replace the terminal block. If no, continue on in the operator's manual to table 8-22, mixer electrical troubleshooting, steps 4A through 10A.